You know, one of those moments when you think you've made a really great business decision and then it slowly unravels. Well, that was me signing up with a debt collector to chase a client who wouldn't pay me. And it was quite a considerable amount of money for my little business. And whatever I had already done to chase the debt just was not working. I was just getting the I don't have enough money to pay you scenario, when I could see quite clearly, being his bookkeeper, that he did at certain points in the month. He just chose not to pay me, or at least make a payment, an instalment. So hence why I was researching debt collectors. But somewhere along the line, I ended up chasing the debt collector, not for money, but for an update. So let me walk you through what happened, what didn't happen, and how it stands today. Of course, you read the website of this debt collector, who had numerous awards for customer service, and there's me thinking, great, this sounds exactly what I'm looking for. So I filled in their online form, or sent them an email, I can't remember which it was now, and sat and waited for the callback, which never came. So I called them and I said, look, I've just, put in a request for a callback and I haven't had one yet. So of course I got all the apologies, and the young lady on the phone took my number and said she'd get an agent to call me back. And I sat and waited and waited and nothing happened. Now, this review was very professional. It did not slag anybody off. It did not say anything rude, but it sort of went along the lines of, well, if they've won awards for customer services, I don't know how, because I've sat and waited for 48 hours for a callback and I haven't had one. And I've also got all the stress of having this debt, and I thought that I was going to resolve it by getting these debt collectors on board. And then lo and behold, about 4 hours later, after this review had gone up, I had a call from the owner, who was on his way. He was at an airport. He was on his way for a weekend away with his wife. And he called me to say he was really sorry about the service that I'd had so far. And I just said, well, what service? But he was very nice. He was actually, he made me laugh, actually. He was a really nice guy. He's a really nice guy, I should say. He's not, he's still with us. And he said to me that he would be more than happy to take on board my debt on a no-win, no-fee basis. And I said, well, that doesn't seem fair. I'm not trying to get out of paying you anything. I said, I just want to get this debt retrieved. So he said, leave it with me. And over the weekend, I thought, well, this is great. This is, I'm hoping it's going to go really well. And so I was quite relieved over the weekend. It was a really nice feeling. So I received all the forms to fill in. I was expecting to get a contract, but there wasn't a proper contract stating terms and conditions and what was expected. I had I think it was a PDF on an email, but basically it was a questions and answer type thing. So I didn't think anything of it. And my debt was £1,800. Now, obviously, I was entitled to legally add interest and fees, so I did. I added some interest and I added on some money for fees, because I also expected to pay the debt collectors a commission of some sort. At this point, I still assumed I was going to have to pay that. So the debt had now gone over £2,000. I can't remember the exact figure, and it having been a debt of £1,800. Now, let me just first of all say that the reason why the debt had got so large, because for me, that's not 1 month's fees by any means. It had accumulated over several months. The business was not a very good payer at all. I always had to chase, but they always did pay something, whether it was a full invoice or whether it was a part of an invoice, but they paid something to me once I chased them. It was a bit of I had to keep pushing them kind of scenario, but they did pay me. But then that stopped, and no matter how much I pushed, I wasn't getting anywhere. I was doing their payroll for them, and I felt, because I'd gotten to know the staff during phone calls, I really felt I was obliged to continue to do the payrolls even though I wasn't getting paid for them, because it's not my thought process was, it's not the staff's fault that he's not paying me or the business isn't paying me. So I continued to do that for a couple of months, but once I hadn't had any money, 4 months I think it was, I thought I can't keep doing this because he owes me for the time that I've spent doing the payrolls. I had stopped doing the bookkeeping by that point, but the payroll I'd still continued to do. So I stopped doing the payroll, and the guilt was horrendous. But I'm a business and I need to ensure my business is put number one. And so going towards a debt collector, I had felt all these emotions, this guilt, I was ashamed actually for letting it get that far. I mean, it's a business decision. So that was all done, and all the paperwork was all done, although I was still a little bit, well, why haven't I got a contract sort of thing? Well, anyway, time went on, and I think about 2 weeks after I initially signed up with them, I hadn't heard anything. So I sent them an email, and I was given another email to contact. And I got an agent back who was actually quite rude, or abrupt, I should say, quite abrupt. But what I struggled with, I think, was the fact that there was no automated email sent telling me about what stage my debt was at. There was no communication and no updating me of where things were going, or even giving timeframes. If I'd have had timeframes and they'd set an expectation of when I was, likely to receive any updates, I would have been happy. But silence is not golden, believe you me. And I wanted to know what was going on. So again, I've spoken to the owner, and no, I didn't. I spoke to a senior agent or collector, or whatever they call themselves. And I'd sent emails, and we were now about 2 months in to me having given them the debt to collect. And I thought and I'd been thinking a lot about this, and I thought, well, I might just as well have gone to county court and got a county court judgment and then taken it to bailiffs, so that, or bailiffs, high sheriffs, and got them to collect it. So I tried to cancel the service that they were giving me, and I waited. I did it by email very professionally. And then the owner called me and he said, look, I know, you've had some issues with us. And I said, well, yes. And he said, well, this is still a young debt. And I thought, what do you mean by a young debt? It's 4 months old for me, and now it's gone to 6 months old because I've been waiting 2 months or I've been with you for 2 months. He said, but we are working behind the scenes. You just don't know about it. And I said, well, look, why don't you send out automated reports, or I don't know, communications, as for example, so if you've sent a letter to the debtor, I would expect to be informed that you've done that. If you sent an email to the debtor, I'd expect to be told about that. If you've gone for a visit, I'd expect to be told that. And I said, all I've had is one paragraph report from one of the debt collectors who'd gone for a visit at one of the addresses they had down. And he said, well, we're an old-fashioned debt collecting agency. And I thought, well, it doesn't say that anywhere on your website, and I don't understand how customer service awards are given to people where you don't get updates. Anyway, so I'm going to cut a very long story short. So after speaking to the owner after we were 2 months in, he said to me that if I had a normal contract, I would be with them for 4 months. So what's that, 180 days? And I was quite shocked. I'm sure I've not seen any paperwork where that it says that. But then he said, and I'm sure it was just an offhand remark, he said, but as we're on a no win, no fee basis, technically you don't have a contract with me. So technically you can cancel whenever you want. He said, but I'd like to think that you will give us the benefit of the doubt. And he said, and just as a side note, he said, if you are going to go down the county court route and then go to High Sheriffs, he said, you're probably looking at a possibly 6 to 9 months more. And I thought, well, I'm not really sure about your timings of that, but it's probably not going to be far short of another 4 to 6 months. So yes, he was right. And I thought about it and I thought, well, I'll give him another 2 months and then that's the 4 months. And then he said to me at the end of the conversation on the telephone, he said something along the lines of, well, the debt collector in his notes here has said that he thinks the debtor will pay. And I said, well, he can't get out of it. He's not ever queried any of my bookkeeping. He's never queried an invoice. So I don't see how he can get out of it. And he said, well, you'd be surprised. And I thought, well, okay. I mean, I've done accounts receivable debt collecting for many companies and I've never come across that one before, but hey ho, it's his sector, not mine. So I'm now left with the fact that the debt still isn't paid. I'm still not getting updates. It's been, well, I've just come back from a week's holiday and it's a week after that. So it's probably been about 2 and a bit weeks now since I had the conversation with the owner. I've had no other communication from them at all. And where are we now? I was thinking it was the 27th of July. So the 27th of October will be month 3 finished and I'll be going into month 4. So that's where I am with the debt at the moment. But this is the other thing that I found out whilst I was talking to him the first time. And this was the shocker. Nowhere on his website does it say that if the debtor pays, obviously the money goes to his company because all the correspondence goes out from them and it's got their bank details on it. And obviously that's for bank transfers. But if the debtor would pay by a credit card or a debit card, then it goes to their bank account. Now, I was expecting there might be like a small delay of maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks at the most before I would get my money. But, and listen carefully, if you're going to use a debt collecting company, ask them what their terms are, because it transpires that due to an issue that they had a long time ago with a client that paid them by card and then complained to their card company, who then took the money back from the debt collectors, citing whatever reason it was. I don't think he even told me, but just say it was, let's just pick harassment for an example, or it could be they disagreed that the debt was actually a proper debt, something, like that. Then the card company can take the money back from the debt collectors. So instead of it being 60 days, which was what normal terms are apparently, it's now 90 days. So I would then have to wait another 3 months before I get my money. And when I queried this with the young girl who answered the admin phone, then apparently other debt collecting companies actually have 4 months before you get your money. Now, I'm not saying that I disagree with it, because obviously there has to be some kind of safety net for them. If they do take money by card, they need to get past the time limit for that money to be clawed back. I do understand that, and as a business owner, I totally get it. However, be upfront with the fact that that's going to happen, because for me, my debt was 4 months old when I went to them. So I've lost money on that money not being in my business, a cash flow issue. So it's cost me money. Not having proper communication is one issue that I have with them. The second issue is, I think that they also need to make sure that you have a proper contract where you know exactly what's going to happen and when. You have the communication of when the reports are going to be sent out to you, or at least updates of what's been done. I mean, it can only be done once a month. I'm not fussy about having it weekly. Once a month, just to say we've sent an email, we've sent a letter, we've been on a visit, we called him or whatever, and then be upfront about if they'd got payment from this guy or this business, that it would then be 3 months until I get my money, because that's now going to be considering, so you've got 4 months of the debt, then you've got another 2 months before I chase them to find out what was happening with the debt. It's been another month sat with them, and it's going to be another month sat with them. So if they get money within this time frame, that's going to be another 3 months. So that's 10 months that I have been without this money. And I would have factored that in better in my business cash flow if I'd have known about it. But yeah, those are my gripes. That's my moan. And I just think that people should be aware that this is my experience of this particular debt collecting company. And obviously I'm not going to name them at all. I think it's been dealt with quite well by the owner. And I'm grateful that he has taken it on board, because he doesn't deal with everything, clearly, because he's the business owner. But I do think it's a bit of a cautionary tale that debt collectors can be good when it works for you, but can also be a bit of a sting in the tail if you don't understand fully what the processes are, and how long it's likely to take to get your money back. Maybe I was being naive, I don't know. But I'd like to think that I have some knowledge of debt collection from my business and from having done it in when I was employed. But I've never come across this before. Yes, I've heard horror stories about debt collectors, and horror stories from the opposite way around, when you owe money and they come to you and all that sort of thing. But I don't feel that the company did this on purpose. Don't get me wrong. I don't think that. But I think if you are going to go down the debt collector route for a debt that you've got as a business, then make sure you ask a lot of pertinent questions, and make sure that you have all of the documentation about their processes, and you understand exactly what's going to be done, when it's going to be done, and the expectation of when you're going to get your money once they get that debtor to pay. So yes, as of filming this, I am still waiting for my money. What I'm going to do after the 4 months is up, where this contract is in place, I'm unsure. I'll make the decision closer to the time, I think. I hope, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed, that the business will pay, and that I will at least the money will be sitting in the debt collector's bank account, and then I know that I've got to wait the 3 months and then I'll get my money. At the moment, it's still an unknown, and as a business owner, I'm not happy with that. But I'm biding my time is probably not the right phrase to use, but I'm going to sit and wait until the end of the 4 month period and see where we're at, and then possibly think about another route to go down, but I will see. Anyway, they're confident that they're going to get the money, so I have to believe in their confidence. They have won awards, so I have to believe that they can deliver what they promise, although it's not a promise, it's a confidence. So that's where I'm at, and I just wanted to have a little bit of a rant because it helps me to get it off my chest, and it also is a little bit of a warning to others who are thinking about going down the same route, is to make sure that you understand exactly what the clauses are if you happen to get a contract or whatever you want to call it, an agreement. I will update everybody if I get the thumbs up that the money's in, and I will let you all know. But if not, I will also let you know what I decided to do after the 4 months. If anybody's had the same experience as me or a similar experience, then please let me know what happened, what the conclusion was. Did you stay with the debt collectors, or did you go elsewhere, or did you try and collect the money yourself? If you've had a successful debt collection, then please let me know as well, because that might give me that extra boost to believe their confidence that it's going to happen. But I also want to say thank you for those that have watched this far and those that support my channel. I do really appreciate it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.